Alright, welcome American history students to the first attempt at doing a little flipped classroom work here. I'm going to go through section 1 of chapter 12, which talks about the politics of Reconstruction. We started to read about this earlier in the week here, and we'll just kind of go through our notes as we would in class. So a couple of things you can do with this. One, it allows us to do some out in-class activities as opposed to me taking an entire class period and giving you the notes. My goal is to do this quickly, which will allow you to pause and take your notes and then hit play again, and we'll keep going. Hopefully we'll be able to get through some things faster in class and allow you to ask some more in-depth questions, and we'll get us some more discovery going here. So, without further ado, grab your pad of paper, your notebook, wherever you take notes, and we'll begin. The only drawback to this is I can't tell jokes on the side. I guess I have to add in a few extra ones. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you got your notes all ready to go now. Alright, so a couple of terms and names that we're going to talk about first, and you're going to need to know. One, we talked about this the other day. Reconstruction, that's the period during which the U.S. began to rebuild after the Civil War. It lasted from 1865 to 1877. In addition, it was the process of readmitting the Confederate States to the Union. So that's Reconstruction. Second word, term that you're going to have to look up in your book, which is actually right here on the screen. So, Radical Republicans. These are congressional Republicans who wanted to destroy the political power of former slaveholders. And they wanted to give African Americans full citizenship and the right to vote. That's why they were so radical. Some important figures that you need to know from this section. First one, Andrew Johnson. Okay, Andrew Johnson. He succeeded Abraham Lincoln as president from Tennessee. He's the only senator to remain loyal to the Union, because you remember that Tennessee was a Confederate state. So he was kind of out there when it comes to anything that has to do with the Civil War. He was just kind of a traitor in the South's eyes. He's the only senator to remain loyal to the Union. The next guy, Thaddeus Stevens. You can see his picture. He's very staunch. His lips are protruding a little bit, kind of like he's mad. Hair's blowing in the wind a little bit there in that picture, but he looks great. Okay, so Thaddeus Stevens, he was a radical Republican from Pennsylvania. He was one of these guys who wanted to destroy the political power of those former slaveholders. Okay, he had that viewpoint again that the African Americans should have full citizenship and the right to vote. And at that time, that was very radical. It was out there. It was no other country in the world had given African Americans the right to vote and full citizenship. So he was that guy. Okay, we're going to talk about him a little bit more in the section. All right, moving on to Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction. The 10% plan in 1863 said that Lincoln came up with the idea that the government would pardon all Confederates, those that fought in the war, except high-ranking Confederate officials and those accused of crimes against prisoners of war, who swore allegiance, as long as they swore allegiance to the Union. And President Lincoln's policy was to bring the South back. That's what this was. It was the 10% plan. The states that fell into this and actually did what Lincoln wanted them to do was Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Virginia. Okay, Thaddeus Stevens he wasn't happy with this plan. He thought that they needed to do more things. He wanted to get back. They wanted to get them back. Okay. According to Lincoln's plan, after 10% of the population in those states swore allegiance back to the Union, they could repetition to form a new government in the Union. All right. This is kind of, Thaddeus Stevens is one of those people who really didn't think this was strong enough, so he had some radical reactions to that plan. The Wade Davis bill was one of these reactions. It proposed that Congress, not the president, be responsible for Reconstruction. This was in July of 1864. And remember, according to the Constitution, a president has 10 days to either sign or veto a bill passed by Congress. And this was one of these bills that was introduced with less than 10 days left in the congressional season. And if Lincoln chose to, he could deny or just choose to pocket veto this bill. Okay. In the Wade Davis bill, it stated that a majority was needed to swear oath and allegiance to the Union, not just 10%. So they were taking Lincoln's plan and making it you had to have a few more people than just 10%. Okay, Lincoln decided to ultimately pocket veto this bill, so he denied it. He didn't want to have to deal with it. He didn't think it was a great idea. Okay, Johnson's plan. Okay, unfortunately, we all know that Lincoln gets shot at Ford's Theater by John Wilkes Booth in 1865. That brings Democrat Andrew Johnson to Reconstruction. Okay, Andrew Johnson is one of those guys who probably didn't know what he wanted to do. Wasn't real sure what he was supposed to do. He came up with the idea of presidential Reconstruction, which basically stated that each remaining Confederate state would have to meet several conditions. Okay, first thing they'd have to do is they'd have to withdraw their secession from the Union. Okay, they'd have to take that back. They'd have to swear allegiance to the Union. They'd have to pay annual war debts. Okay, and remember, the South has already been devastated by war. All their land is destroyed. Now on top of that, they got to add an annual war debt that they have to pay, and they also have to ratify the 13th Amendment, which gives slaves their freedom. All right. It differed from Lincoln's plan mostly by preventing the Confederate leadership and rich landowners from taking the oath for voting rights. Okay, they didn't really want them to be able to vote. It didn't really address the needs of the former slaves. Okay, did the slaves have land voting rights? And what kind of protections do they have under the law? He kind of left it ambiguous, so that way he didn't get blamed for anything. So some results of this plan: all the states kind of quickly complied. Right? But it didn't go quite as planned. Some states didn't meet all the demands. Okay, it was tough because this wasn't enforced very well. There was no army that would go down and make sure that all the states are paying their war debts, or that the southern states are following the laws of the United States. There's nobody there to enforce it. Made it difficult. One thing that did occur, though, was the creation of the Freedmen's Bureau. Right? And what this bureau did was established by Congress during the last month of the Civil War, and it assisted former slaves and poor whites in the South by distributing food and clothing and education. So what it did was that it set up approximately 40 hospitals, 4,000 schools, and 61 industrial institutes and 74 teacher training centers. Okay, one thing you got to do is you got to get the South going again. Is you got to get people clothed, you got to get them food, and you got to get them educated. Here's a picture of one of those schools might have looked like from a newspaper. All right. Next thing we have is the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Gave African American citizenship and forbade states from passing discriminatory laws, otherwise known as black codes. Right? That it was the black codes of that time were designed to restrict African Americans. Right? They're not allowed to do things. And remember, 13th Amendment says that they are free, but yet these laws are just another way of trying to limit those things. President Johnson wasn't real happy with either one of these things. He vetoed both the Freedmen's Bureau Act and the Civil Rights Act. He said it had gone far beyond any of the opening shots in the battle between the President and Congress. Okay, you can imagine if both of these two things, both of the Freedmen's Bureau and the Civil Rights Act, are introduced by Congress. Congress is trying to get the country pulled back together, and the President vetoes both of them. I'm sure they're going to be a little bit upset, right? So he alienates himself a little bit from them. Okay, they get upset. Congress is ticked off. Okay, it's kind of like when you burn the macaroni and cheese. You're like mad because like, doggone it, I needed that macaroni and cheese and I just burnt it. So Congress is upset by his presidential votes, right? The next thing that happens is time goes on. Congress introduces the 14th Amendment, which says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the country. Okay, it doesn't matter if you are a slave, if you are a poor white person, or you're a rich white person, if you're somewhere in the middle there. If you were born in this country or you are naturalized as a citizen, uh, you are a citizen of this country. Okay, doesn't give you the right to vote though. That's the thing. It doesn't give you the right to vote. It wasn't ratified until 1868. You also have the Reconstruction Act of 1867, and this is what happens here is Congress uses this act to basically start over and scrap both the Lincoln and Johnson plan. They didn't like how it was going. It caused too many issues. It wasn't enforced. Either it wasn't strong enough or it wasn't enforced, type of deal. Okay. Basically, in order for the states to re-enter the Union, Congress says that they have to include a provision that allows for African American men the right to vote, and they have to ratify the 14th Amendment. Okay. Johnson, he's Mr. Veto. He vetoes this act. Okay. So Congress is livid at this point. Okay? The president isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be keeping the nation together, and all he's doing is making people mad. So Congress takes it upon themselves to try to impeach President Johnson. Okay, radical leaders are upset with him. We know that. All right, they're looking to get rid of him, get him out of the office. He ain't doing his job. I remember the word impeach from your civics class last year. Okay, how many remember that one? All right, I'm hoping you're all raising your hand. Good. Impeach means to formally charge an official with misconduct in the office. All right, so what they have to do is in March of 1867, they hold a trial, and they try to get Johnson to be impeached. He has to appear before Congress, and his charges are read, and they try to get it going, try to get him impeached. However, after the votes come in, it fails to pass. They fail to impeach him by one lousy vote. So Johnson is saved. Okay, he doesn't have to get fired. You can imagine the frustration of that Congress and how upset they probably are. Because the president isn't doing his job in their mind, and it fails. All right. Time goes on. They keep moving. The next election, which is the 1868 presidential election. The Democrats know that Johnson isn't going to be their guy. They're not going to nominate him anymore. So who do they nominate? Wartime governor Ulysses S. Grant. Okay, in 1868, it's the election of Horatio Seymour against Grant. Right, Grant wins. Long story short. Right. In time, you got some worried radicals. They introduce the 15th Amendment. No one can be kept from voting because of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Right? Trying to get more and more people voting. Trying to get those African Americans the chance to vote. We're moving that way. The 15th Amendment was ratified by the states in 1870. It was an important victory for the radicals. And in response to this, Congress passes the Enforcement Act of 1870, giving the federal government more power to punish those who tried to prevent African Americans from exercising their rights. We're going to see in the next section even more how the government is trying to put together the society back to its form. All right, so that's the notes for this section. What you're going to do now is kind of review your notes a little bit, and I have one last task for you. And oh, by the way, it affected all the states, north and south. Boom. Okay, so your last thing is to create 3 questions that you can bring to class based on the notes that you just took. Okay, so I want 3 questions. Right? 3 questions. Okay, don't worry about this one. We'll go back. Give me 3 questions based on what you read about the notes that we took. Okay, just pick 3 of them. Okay, but they can't. You can only have one question that